heck, you mentioned the tight ends there, and that's one matchup. That for what Miami has on offense and maybe something new on the Florida defense, because Vashawn Joseph leaves. He had trouble covering tight ends. You go back to the Georgia game last year and what Georgia was able to do right before halftime there. Amari Burney is going to come in. He played all over the field last year, safety, nickel, eventually moved into that linebacker spot because he is versatile. He is a guy that can use his speed to actually keep up with receivers and tight ends and running back side the backfield. But my question is there too is he's not used to necessarily playing linebacker, getting hit time and time again, and then the very next play have to go keep up with the tight end. So I am Amari Burney. I am high on. He's probably one of my favorite recruits coming into Florida as a freshman last season. Got to play a lot as a true freshman last year, but I do wonder if the transition to playing more of a linebacker, getting hit by offensive linemen, getting hit by running backs, and then have to go cover a tight end down the seam for a 25-yard, route, and with those tight ends Miami brings to the table, I think it's a really good matchup to look out for.
Yeah, and that's one that I think that Miami's going to expose because I take our tight ends over pretty much any linebackers and safeties. I mean, they're just both dynamic. Brevin Jordan was the number one tight end last recruiting class, freshman All-American, first team. And Will Mallory might even have a higher ceiling moving towards the NFL and even starting, this year. At that position, I just think that, Amari Burney, he's a guy who got an early offer from Miami. I wrote about him when we offered him, and then we, cooled off on him, and he decided to look elsewhere as well. But he's the guy who, does have a lot of ability. I'm not going to say that he's, nothing. I mean, Miami was recruiting him because he can play at this level. I just don't think that he's seen what he's going to see. And especially with, Miami's seniors and linebacker, they're talking about after practice, Miami's offense, Dan Enos comes up with the rule breakers because you have in your defensive scheme, if a certain combination route happens or whatever, this is how you're going to cover it based upon your coverage. Dan Enos is trying to scheme things that break your defensive rules. And even if you have guys who played, hundreds of snaps, I mean, they have hundreds of tackles each in Quarterman and Pinckney, and they're getting, a little bit twisted. You're going to put a kid, Amari Burney, in his first real true action at linebacker and have to deal with understanding and recognizing and adjusting to the rule breakers as they happen. I like Miami in that kind of a situation. So, Florida has struggled with, covering tight ends, not just even in the Georgia game, but multiple games in years past. And Miami has some of the best, if not the best tight ends in America. So yeah, that's a thing that I look at Miami to try to exploit. And you said, when I asked you about who, gives you a little bit of concern on offense, you said Jeff Thomas, and obviously Jaron Williams. If that's a design play for Jeff Thomas, he's going to look there first. Yeah. But it's easier for a quarterback to look at what's right in front of them. You know what I mean? And those tight ends in the box. If I play action, I turn my head right back around. I'm going to look here first, right in front of my face between those hashes, instead of going out to the side towards where Jeff Thomas is. So I think Brevin Jordan and Will Mallory could really be integral to this game plan for Miami.
Yeah, to extend that though, right before Mark jumps in. Yeah, because I do think, with the pressure Grantham is probably going to bring, given his history, there's not going to be a lot of 5-7 step drops to go out there and maybe hit Thomas down the field. It is going to be looking for those tight ends on those, intermediate routes that you're probably going to, really only have time for until the game flow gets going and then adjustments are made along the way.
Right. I agree with that. Sorry. So I know you talked about, obviously I said the same thing, about our offensive line going up against your defensive front. And you said the same thing coming this way. I know that Grantham likes to blitz a lot. I don't even know. So how do you think that's going to be a foundation for what you guys are going to do across the board defensively?
As the year goes on, or just this game?
No, just this game.
First, you got to find, and I'm sure they've identified whoever they want to identify as the guy that could replace what Jacopolite brought to the table last year. He was so fast off the edge.
Yeah,
did give up a little bit of trying to maybe set the edge. And if you're playing a power run game, There was a midseason stretch there against Vanderbilt, against Georgia, against Missouri, against South Carolina, where that Florida pass rush, basically led by him, was kind of invisible there. I mean, they still have 37 sacks on the year, and they still had a 4-game stretch where they didn't really necessarily play their best there. So I think it's really finding a replacement for Ja'Kai Polite. And is that Jeremiah Moon, who missed springtime with a foot injury? Is it the transfer of Jonathan Grenard from Louisville that Todd Grantham recruited there? They know each other very well, so they know what to expect from each other. So, I mean, Todd Grantham, he has that reputation sometimes of being blitz happy, but with the speed he has at Florida and the speed that he can get on defense and the way he can trust his corners to play one-on-one, I don't really expect that to slow down much. And I think he's going to throw it all at Jerry Williams, see how he reacts to it. If he reacts like a guy making his first start, he'll continue to do it. If it's something that Jerry Williams can drop back, little 2-3 step drop and get the ball out of his hands really fast, and the blitz isn't getting there, well, then it's time to adjust. And then there'd be the adjustment. If Jerry Williams has some early success, that's where I'm kind of looking for what adjustments Todd Grantham makes, because his defense lives off of the blitz. If the blitz isn't getting there, then what adjustments are made?
Right. I mean, yeah, that's why everybody calls it, 3rd and Grantham for those blitz packages.